Now it's time to make our character real world size. The reason why we need to make our character real world size is because let's say we're going to add a skin shader later on. We want to be able to put in an accurate settings for our subsurface scattering. We don't want to have to put an insane amount of numbers just to see the effect of the subsurface scattering option. Kind of like what we did here on the light. If you look at my light here, I had to set the power over 600 because my character is so large, it's so big in size that in order for me to see the illumination for the lighting, I have to really crank up the value for the amount for the power. And we don't really want to have to do that. So later on, we're gonna be, after we set our character here to real world size, we're gonna mess around with our light settings here. And also, let's say that you want to add particles or physics in your scene, and you want to add physics for your character. You don't want to have to put an insane amount of value for the settings for the particles to work. So that's why it's really important to do a real world size for your character. And also, if you want to take in a game engine, you want to combine it with all the props, the environments in your scene, you want it all to kind of match up, all right, with the size of the environment. So everything must be real world size. Okay, so how do we make this real world size anyways? First, we have to make a cube. Shift A, and let's go ahead and create a cube here. This is going to act as our ruler. And we can just move this to the side. And now we want to be able to see the measurement for the cube. So to be able to see the measurement for the cube, hit tab on your keyboard. All right, and make sure you have all the faces selected. And you're just gonna press A to select everything. And to be able to see the measurement, let's just go to here, to our viewport overlay, and you're gonna see measurement, edge length. Turn that on. Okay, so right now we are just seeing meters, all right? Of course, this if you wanna work with that type of unit, that's fine, but I like to work with feet. So let's say you wanna modify the unit setup. All you gotta do is go to your scene properties right here, and then you're gonna go to units, roll out here. And right now we are on metric. With metric, you could work with meters, kilometers, centimeters, all that. It's up to you if you want to work with this, but I prefer to work with imperial, and I like to adjust it to feet. So right now this box is, the height of this box is 6.56. So 6 feet and 56 inches. Now, we can take a look at how tall orcs are, all right? So male averages at about 7.5 feet tall. Now, that's gonna be the average. I actually want my orc to be a little taller than the average male orc. So I want him to be around 8 feet. Okay, so that being said, I could go to my scale tool. So if you wanna something a little larger, you gotta scale up your cube. So if I'm scaling it up, making the cube taller, you could see that the measurement is changing. So I want to just scale it so that I have about 8 foot. That's about it. Yeah, something like that. All right, so I know that right now it's 7.99, 7 feet 99 inches. So that's almost 8 foot to me. So I'm just gonna go and make sure that I actually have it. Actually could go here. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, my character is going to be from this height to this height, so it has to be this tall, the character. As you can see, our character is really large, so we gotta have to scale him down. I'm just gonna hit the tab key, and I'm just gonna rename this cube. I'm gonna rename it ruler. And another thing that I want to do is I want to just go ahead and turn on selectable right here. Okay, so just click on this drop down, you could turn that on. And I don't want to be able to select my ruler right now, so I'm just gonna disable my selection, so I'm not able to select my cube. Now we gotta scale our character so that it will match the height of our cube here. And let's go. First of all, before we scale our character, we need to show our 9 heads proportion. Okay, so there's a 9 head proportion. So what we want to do is when we scale, as we scale our character here, we also want to scale our 9 heads. So just in case we want to turn this on again, our 9 heads, and double check everything, it's the same, it's still aligned with our character's body. All right. So before, we don't want to just like select everything in our scene and just like use the scale tool and just scale it down like this, okay? Because you could see that when we just do that, you see how it's no longer in the middle of the grid. So we want to keep our character in the middle of the grid. So I'm just gonna undo that, Control Z to undo. All right, so what we want to do is we want to select our heads guide here. And you can see when I select the heads, the move tool is actually right here on the left side. We want to make sure that our pivot is actually on the 3D cursor right in the middle of the grid. So we need to, with our character, with our 9 heads selected, we just go to Object, Set Origin, and Origin to 3D Cursor. So now it's in the middle of the grid. All right, and when you select the 9 heads, the pivot is in the middle of the grid. And if we now go ahead and select all parts of our character, selecting all parts of our character along, and if you go to the move tool, we want to make sure also that we are not selecting the lighting. So I'm just gonna hold the Control key as I deselect the lights. We don't really want to select the lights in the camera, because if you have those selected and you scale down your mesh, it's gonna be off. It's not gonna be in the middle of the grid anymore. So you want to just select your geometry along with the 9 heads here. Okay, so that'll be fine. Everything is selected except for the lights in the camera. And then now when I'm scaling, I like to look at the front view here, and then just press S and scale down. And once again, you want to double check that your character is still in the middle of the grid. So you could tell it's in the middle of the grid. You just follow this blue line right here, right? It should be right in the middle of your character. So you want to keep your character in the middle of the grid. So just in case later on you want to rig your character, or you're going to go back and sculpt your character, and you turn on the mirror. Turn on your symmetry for a character as you're sculpting. You still want to be able to sculpt accurately on the left side and the right side, all right? So let's go and let's go ahead and just still scaling this down. We wanted to match the size of this. Actually, I want to go to my ruler here and select my ruler and just kind of move it closer so I can see what's going on. All right. And then, of course, scale. All right, so everything is still good. I just want to make sure it's still in the middle of the grid. As you're scaling, just double check that everything is still in the middle of the grid. Okay. So I'm really not counting the hair as the height, so I'm just counting like from the top of the head here onto the feet. I think that's about it. Will be good. All right, and if we hit our tab key, press A, see, you could see there. We have 7.99. Remember, we have this 7.99, and so now it's matching up with our character. So our character is about 8 feet high now. And we can just delete our ruler, our cube. We don't need that anymore. And of course, we could just hide our proportion head. And now if we look at our light here, our light is really, really big right now, all right? Of course, you could just kind of move this around and just scale down the size and everything, but I prefer to just delete them. I think it's gonna be just easier that way. And I have an extra light here. I think this was there by default. It's a point light, so I'm just gonna remove that. And I'm just gonna create like a brand new lighting here. I'm just gonna go to light and area light. Great, I'm just gonna move that up. And then of course, I'm gonna go set it to normal. You guys mess around with the settings here, and whatever will be easier for you guys to move the light around. I usually set it to normal first as I'm moving at the beginning, as I'm moving the light at the beginning, and then later on I like to set it to view. So I go back and forth between setting it to normal and view. And as I'm rotating, I just like to, instead of rotating the ring, I like to rotate, like you see where the space is at right here. I just kind of like to do that instead of using the ring thing. I feel like I have more control when I'm rotating that way. Okay, and I could go ahead and check. Let me just move this back. And also when you are setting up your lighting, you don't want to create the light like right. You don't want to make the light position right in the middle of the character, because if you do that, it's going to make the character look flat. So I usually set my lighting like at an angle, like right here above, and kind of on a little bit slightly on the left or on the right. Okay, that way it will give me like some nice angular shadows. And we could go and render this out. I'm gonna see what I have here. All right, and you can see with my lighting here, my area light, and if I go to my power, right now I have the settings to 10, and it's not even 600, and we could already see the effect of the lighting. Yeah, because we have set this to real world size, that means we don't really have to crank up our power all the way up just so that we can see the result of the light. But I think I need to crank it up a little bit more, maybe a little higher, something like that. And of course, if you think that the lighting is a little too sharp, okay, then you could go to the size here, the size option, and then crank up the size to soften the edges of the shadows. Maybe I could set it to 10. There you go. All right, yeah, so the higher the value, the softer the shadows will be. All right. I find that if I crank up the value to 10 and it has softer shadows, it looks more realistic. And I'm also going to just make a copy of this light. So I'm gonna Shift D. And this one's gonna be, of course, for the rim light. I'm just gonna move it. So this is only so, you know, we wanna be able to have like some kind of lighting here, just so we could see exactly how our muscles look like in different lighting conditions. But none of these settings are set in stone. We're gonna probably have to go back, of course, to this and further manipulate our lighting to get the result that we want. Then we could crank up the rim. You can see the rim light there. Yeah, so what's good about the rim light is it separates the character from the background. All right. So I'm not so worried about the lighting right now, but yeah, it's just so that we have something that we could work with here. And another thing while we're here, I want to do something about the biceps. I think now that I have, I have a lighting there, I could see more what's going on with the muscles. I think the biceps could definitely be bigger. So I want to go back to my sculpt mode here. This is good about having different types of lighting conditions here. You could see exactly more what's going on with your character. If there's anything that needs to be bigger or smaller, you could kind of see it when you have a different type of lighting set up there. So yeah, he's got a pretty buff guy, you know. So I kind of want him to be bulky on the biceps. And this is the tricep area. Alright, so now he got a bigger biceps. And if we look here, it's still in a good shape from the top view, still has the shapes, and this is exactly what we want. Remember, with the bicep, you don't really want it to be like bulbous like this, unless of course your character is flexing his muscles. But most of the time when he's relaxed, you just kind of want it in this kind of position. And I'm gonna move that there, maybe a little bit even bulkier. Yeah, something like that. All right, and so now I think it could be a little bit too bulbous. Okay, something like that. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna see what we have so far when we render this out. Okay, that's better. I could definitely see more of the biceps there. All right, let me check out his triceps a bit. Okay, I'm gonna go to my sculpt here. Okay, I feel like this branchialis muscle is a bit too large. This right here, that's the branchialis muscle. So I'm gonna, yeah, you might be working on your stuff, and then you might see some things that you need to go back to and kind of fix. And yeah, don't be afraid to just go back to your stuff and fix it. Yeah, that happens. You're always going to see something that you haven't seen before after, you know. Okay. Yeah. And you know, I like to add that break. Nice little break. Okay, something like that. So I still want to have that nice break there. And I want to go back to my smooth and just crank that up. I'm able to smooth a little better. And gonna make sure it's kind of tucked in there. Right. Yep, something like that. And okay, cool. Probably could add a little bit of, yeah, break right there. When we go ahead and remesh this, it's gonna look better, but I don't, yeah, I'll remesh it later, but not for now. Okay, something like that. And I want to go C, render. All right, cool. All right, great.